bringing space sci-fi back to television because it feels like there's nothing out there right now.
Yeah.
It's so weird that we have so many science fiction television shows, but this is literally the only thing in space. I mean, we're not even getting the new Star Trek on regular TV. Why do you think that is? That it's just so hard to sell it sometimes?
I don't know. I mean, it is hard to shoot. It's hard to, when you get into space, there's all the technical. It's expensive, I guess, to shoot, and it's technically challenging, especially if you're going to pay attention to real science, which we try to, unless it gets in the way of something really dramatic or interesting, sometimes like sound. We know there's no sound in space, but that's such a dramatic storytelling tool, and we're like, okay, we've forgiven a couple of things like that, but basically, I just think it's and I think maybe it's just the hunger for, like, genres kind of ebb and flow. They go away for a while, and people go, oh my God, no one's done I don't know, like since Galactica, there's been there's been some, but there hasn't been sort of this epic, giant. Feeling of the kind of the Stanley Kubrick kind of grandeur and scope of a show in a while. So I feel like we wanted to do that, but tell it about the little people, or the usually the people who don't usually get much play in these shows. It's usually ship captains, and we have some government leaders, but it's usually the big players in these shows. With big, we're just like, what about the guy in the engine room? What about the cop? What about all the people who are living in this world? So, tried to take the epic feel of like great sci-fi, but then bring it down to characters that are really, just struggling through life like anybody else, and to try to bring those two things together. And I just think it's time for people got hungry for it again, and the sci-fi was ready to jump back into a show like this, and the books had been published. It was kind of like the planets aligned for this thing to happen when it did. But I do think it is one of those things where it goes away for some reason. The only thing that hasn't gone away, and I know I'll be struck down where I sit, but the superhero genre, I wish would sometimes like have a little breather and let it build up some excitement. It seems to be endlessly popular and evergreen, and that surprised the hell out of me, because every other genre needs to kind of taper off and then surge back, and that genre just doesn't stop. It's unbelievable.
Well, it built up over 50 years of
That's
Hollywood
right.
ignoring it.
Right.
So give it another 50 years, it'll go down again.
Never. No, but it is amazing. And I guess the idea that when Avi Arad and guys like that got back in, saying that the superhero stories could be like really epic and really serious, big. There was kind of a smirk at the beginning of it, like that they weren't those kinds of stories, and they weren't worthy of that kind of telling. So. That opinion has been revised.
Yeah.
So
when you start with Forbidden Planet and move into 2001, science fiction has legitimacy, which superheroes never did. But anyway, that answers that question. Back to the subject.
Yeah. So for season 2, there's a couple of dynamics that we can talk about. First of all, Miller is on the Rosamante, and I know that's going to shake things up.
Yeah.
And also, for lack of a better term, the substance is, I would think, is something that's going to be explored in season 2.
Yeah.
Are those the two main trend lines this year?
Yeah, I mean, what this proto-molecule thing is, what it does, what it's there for. I mean, that's the huge mystery. That will start being like burrowed into now. It's not just going to be like we're going to play keep away with that. We had to sort of keep the mystery going in season 1, but you'll burrow down into what is that, why is it here, what does it do, who wants it, all that, all answers to a lot of questions we posed in season 1. And then there's going to be the crew and their specific reaction to this thing having been discovered. Miller is now on the ship, who does not do well in space, so you have the kind of the cranky uncle who like came to sleep on the couch and wouldn't leave kind of thing. He's suddenly on the ship, totally throws the balance of everything off. The sort of this House of Cards-y kind of political drama keeps going on Earth, and then we have the big introduction of the Martian perspective through Bobby Draper, a Martian Marine who we open the show with, and who brings that perspective in that we haven't seen at all really in the show. Little dribs and drabs of who are the Martians, but Bobby will completely give us a window into the whole third player. We've got the Belter perspective, the Earth perspective. Now we'll have a huge window into the Martian perspective. So that's the other huge thread of the politics of the solar system and how that affects all of our characters. And it's always one story, just telling different facets of one story. So and that, I think we led up to that in season 1. Now you'll see that really manifesting in season 2, where everything's connected. It's all one story. It's all everybody's pulling on threads which affect everybody else, and that's what I like about the way it's structured. And
it's awesome.
I'm
glad you're doing Mars.
Already?
Yeah,
oh, wow.
already.
I was just going to ask about if you're going to get into the backstory of Naomi and Mars.
Yes, and yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And more to come, like a lot, but a ton more to come on Amos.
Thank you.